This might be bigger than it looks, and it's not because of Ty Simpson. Real talk. If you take a step back and really look at this Browns situation, it feels like the front office has already made up its mind. They just haven't said it out loud yet. And yeah, that decision revolves around Shedeur Sanders. Let's break this down the right way. Right now, the Browns head into the offseason with 3 quarterbacks under contract: Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, and Dillon Gabriel. But let's keep it a buck. This isn't some wide-open QB battle. In reality, it's way more of a Sanders versus Watson situation. And even then, it's leaning Sanders' way. And that's not just fan talk. There are real signs. The dude finished last season as the starter, made the Pro Bowl, and now he's heading into camp getting treated like QB1, even on the team's socials. That doesn't happen by accident. Now here's the part a lot of dog-pound folks are overlooking: the Ty Simpson buzz. Because whenever drafting a quarterback comes up, fans instantly go, "Oh, so they don't trust Sanders." Hold up. Everything coming out of Browns coverage says the opposite. The vibe around the team is that Cleveland is not desperate for a quarterback right now, especially not in the first round. And that changes everything, because desperate franchises burn high picks on QBs. Every single time. If the Browns truly thought Sanders wasn't the guy, we'd be seeing way more urgency heading into the 2026 class. But we're not. And here's where it gets interesting. Cleveland is playing the long game. They're basically saying, let's give Shedeur Sanders a real, full evaluation. No rush, no panic. That's rare in today's NFL. Usually, young QBs get a short leash. If they don't pop early, teams move on quick. But the Browns are moving different. They're looking at the 2027 QB class mid-round developmental options, even solutions outside the draft. In other words, they're not forcing anything right now. That signals confidence, or at least genuine curiosity about Sanders' ceiling. Now let's talk ball. What does this mean on the field? First, stability. If Sanders walks in as the clear starter, that brings continuity to the offense. And that's huge. Young QBs need reps. They need to mess up, adjust, and grow in the same system. If you're constantly rotating QBs or splitting reps, you kill that development. And it looks like the Browns get that. Second, scheme fit. Sanders isn't a chaos QB. He's not the guy freelancing and making wild off-script plays all game. His game is built on timing intermediate accuracy progression reads. So for him to succeed, the system has to be structured. And if Cleveland is all in on him, that points to a more disciplined offense. Less backyard football, more execution. Now let's be real. I like the approach, but there's risk here. Rolling with Sanders as QB1 in 2026 is still a bet. Has he shown flashes? Absolutely. But he hasn't proven he can carry an offense for a full season, week in and week out. That's a different level. Now, about Ty Simpson, here's the straight take. He makes sense as a plan B, not plan A. Yeah, the numbers are intriguing, but there's a big red flag. He only started for 1 year. Historically, QBs with limited starting experience take longer to adjust to the NFL. So spending a first-round pick on him right now, that doesn't line up with what the Browns are signaling. Second round? Different story. Then it's development. Then it's healthy competition. Then it's long-term insurance. But first round? Nah, that doesn't match the script. Now let's run through the scenarios. Best case? Sanders fully takes over, grows with more reps, sharpens his decision-making, and becomes the franchise QB. If that happens, Cleveland solves the most important position in sports without burning major draft capital. That changes everything. Middle ground. Sanders improves, but questions remain. Then Cleveland heads into 2027 with more clarity and possibly a stronger QB class to work with. Honestly, this feels like the most realistic outcome right now. Worst case, Sanders doesn't take the leap. The offense stalls, inconsistency shows up, and the Browns are right back in QB limbo. That's when you hit the draft in full desperation mode, and Deshaun Watson in all this. At this point, he feels like a side character in the plan. He's still on the roster, still technically in the mix, but the story isn't about him anymore, and that says a lot. Bottom line, the Browns aren't avoiding the quarterback position. They're just not desperate. And in the NFL, that usually means they believe in someone already in the building. In this case, Shedeur Sanders. Now let me ask you straight up, Dog Pound. Are the Browns right to ride with Sanders for another year? Or are they just kicking the can on a problem they should have already handled in the draft?